Am I the a-hole for agreeing to walk my sister down the aisle? When I was 14, my mother died giving birth to my now 20-year-old sister, Elise. My father blamed Elle and started excessively drinking. At 14, I basically became the main caretaker of my 3 siblings. My aunt and a few family friends were able to help out, but the most they could do was bring us groceries and handle inheritance. For the next 4 years, I paid a babysitter for when I was at school and took care of my siblings for the rest of the day. When I graduated high school, I decided against college and immediately took up a part-time job. My dad was almost never in the picture. I fell into a heavy depression and almost died of overdose 3 times. I knew he wanted to be involved. I tried to help him as much as I could, but it hurts to watch. When Elise was around a year old, she started learning to talk and started non-stop calling me Dada, and it broke my heart in so many ways. I tried to get her to stop at first, but eventually I stopped. I reasoned that if she saw me as her dad, then I was doing something right. When I was 19, my dad overheard me helping Elise with her reading and she called me her dad. He blew up in both of us. That I was trying to take his place and she doesn't deserve to be a part of this family after she killed her mom. I decided right then and there that I was done trying with him, and used my inheritance and my aunt's help to move me and my siblings out into a small apartment. It was so sudden I guess it snapped him into reality. It's been over a decade since then and he's now gotten sober. A few years ago, he decided he wanted to form a bond with Elise. She was hesitant, but agreed. Elise is now engaged and is in the middle of planning her wedding. We've always been very close, so I knew I'd at least give a speech. But when she approached me to ask if I'd be the one to walk her down the aisle, I was overjoyed. I was at a planning dinner last night when I joked that I need a nicer suit now that I'd be on the aisle. Everyone laughed, but my dad just looked confused. He asked what I meant. When Elise cut in and explained that she wanted me to walk her down the aisle, since it felt right because I always walked her to school every day her entire life. Aunt and my other siblings thought it was sweet, but my dad and grandma pulled me aside later to tell me that they understood where Elise was coming from, and they didn't blame her. But I should have rejected the offer because it's traditionally a fatherly role, and I know how hard my dad has been working to be a good father to Elise. I told them I'd think about it. A few days have passed and my grandma and some family friends have called me every day telling me I'd be the a-hole to take this away from my dad. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell your dad and grandma that, traditionally, a man accepts responsibility for their children and doesn't blame them for things out of their control. Traditionally, men don't become alcoholics and force children to become parents. Tell them that, traditionally, it falls on the person whom the bride wants. I forgot to add, Opie, you are an amazing person, and you should definitely walk down your daughter on her special day. Family isn't just biological, it's who you choose. Thus, print this out and hand it to them. Not stay home. He never was a father to her. They already explained themselves. It's a fatherly role, which she did for her entire life while he was a drunk loser hating her. Not stay home. Where the heck was grandma and these family friends when dad was living at the bottom of the bottle while you raised your sister? It is your sister's day and her decision. She chose you and you should honor her wishes. It's not on you to help whitewash your father's horrible parenting or his emotional mistreatment after your mom died. Exactly. Dad shouldn't get that honor when he blamed an innocent child for something that wasn't her fault. Opie pretty much was the parent from the get-go. Not the least that his father lost his wife, but Opie lost his mother at 14. He stepped the heck up when his father couldn't. He deserves to walk his sister down the aisle, and she deserves to have him walk her. Not stay home. Blaming a child for the death of their mother in childbirth is seriously abusive. The people with their ridiculous opinion that your dad is owed a walk down the aisle took no action to the point where a 19-year-old had to set up a household to keep his siblings safe. That they are getting involved now to protect the interest of the abuser shows they are terrible people. A few years ago, your father decided he wanted to form a bond with your sister? No, that's your call at this point. He doesn't get to just decide he is ready. He was awful her entire childhood, and now his wants are irrelevant. He does not get to have any expectation beyond what your sister is willing to allow. He should be down on his knees thanking her for any chance she is willing to give him. In fact, If you allow a selfish, entitled man to walk your sister down the aisle to be given priority over what your sister wants, you would be the a-hole. Your father may not be drinking, but he is still prioritizing his needs over those of your sister without any concern about her emotional well-being. Her wedding should be a day of joy for her. Her focus should be on starting a new life with someone that she loves, and who loves and respects her. She should not be dreading walking down the aisle on the arm of someone who makes her feel like an unwelcome murderer for years, instead of sharing the moment with someone who loved and supported her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted to my niece saying her dream job was to be a trophy wife like me? My niece is 17, so she started thinking about her career/university. Yesterday, the family was asking her if she had decided what she wanted to do with her life. She told them her dream job was the same job as my job. Everyone assumed she meant she wanted to work in marketing because that's what I'm currently doing. My niece said that's not what she wants to do, and she wanted to be a trophy wife. Admittedly, this is a sore spot for me, because a lot of my extended family went from treating me like someone who had worked hard to get to where I currently am, to a glorified trophy wife the second I got married. My parents did call her out for what she said, but my niece said her dad said that's what I was. I got annoyed, and I ended up calling my brother-in-law a prick and telling my niece I didn't think it was a realistic dream for her. My sister is upset with me for what I said to my niece and claims that her husband was only joking. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Let's face it, your sister is upset because she and her husband got caught bad-mouthing you and are covering their embarrassment by getting mad at you. What they should be doing is apologizing to you for talking crap about you behind your back. As far as what you told your niece and your brother-in-law, it was entirely appropriate. What did your sister expect you to say? That they were correct and what they said was fine? Her husband was not joking. I was just joking is the mating call of the a-hole when they get caught. Yeah, this is a total Darvo situation happening here. 17 is old enough to know when you're being absolutely rude as hell. Not the a-hole. I was thinking this. A little kid just parrots stuff, but a 17-year-old has enough awareness to know trophy wife equals second marriage to a bimbo equals good to look at. Dumb but generally harmless woman. I think a lot of teens don't know what they want, so they see someone who marries up financially as a good idea. But I would think they would say I want to marry a rich guy, not to be a trophy wife. I definitely knew girls in high school who were unashamed to admit that their life goal was to become a trophy wife. Genuinely proud to aim for nothing other than marrying a guy with money for them to spend. I can't imagine being content with being a leech. Not the a-hole, and I would have been sorely tempted to say, "Oh no, honey, you have to be pretty for that." But that would not have been a kind or mature thing to say. That is pretty much what she did say. I don't think that's a realistic dream for you. If niece was in her 20s, I'd say it would be fine to use that as a retort. But since niece is only 17, it is likely just repeating what her parents say that might be a bit too harsh. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my brother for taking my car? I, male 16, have a brother, male 28, who still doesn't have a car or job. He lives with me, my mom, and dad. I got my permit, took my driving test, and got my license this year. My brother actually knows how to drive and used to use my mom's car, but after getting into an accident with it, she took his privileges away. Ever since I got my license, he's been begging me to use my car and I always say no. The reason I don't want him to use it is because I don't want him to crash it. Also, it belongs to me, and I don't want anyone else using it. About 2 weeks ago, he asked me if he could take my car to go pick his friends up. I told him no. My brother has anger issues and can be scary at times, and he started yelling and swearing at me. I was scared, but still said no. Fast forward to the next morning, I saw my car keys missing. I immediately called my brother and asked him. He said yes, he took it and that he promises he'll bring it back to mint condition. I told him I don't care, and I just don't want anyone else using my car in general. After I hung up with him, I thought about calling my mom and dad, but I was furious. I let my anger and frustration get the best of me and called the cops. I told the cops what happened and gave them my license plate, plus where my brother was at, and his friend's address. They arrested him and brought him to the local police station, and my mom had to come pick him up. My mom was pissed and yelled at me when she got home and took my car keys for the time being. My dad was upset too when he got home. They said I was crazy for calling the cops on my own brother and I could have sent him to jail. I don't feel bad and I hope he learned his lesson. Am I the a-hole? Excellent. With his anger issues, he needs to know you'll call the cops on him. You likely just made all of your lives safer from his anger or stealing. You need to save money your parents or brother can't find or know about, so you can get out of there as soon as possible. Not stay home. Not stay home. And bravo, kid. You are a superior boundary setter. Sounds like you need to be that with your family. Well done. No, you wouldn't have sent your brother to jail. He would have done that all to himself by stealing. Surprise, surprise, that's a crime. You're not a-hole and shame on your parents for defending your brother's deplorable, entitled behavior. I'm sorry that your family sucks. They're enablers, aka really bad parents. The man is 28 for heaven's sake. And the mom stopped letting him use her car because the brother wrecked it. So Opie's supposed to just suck it up if that happens to his car? Why? Because it's not his car. That's why the brother wasn't charged. The OP has no legal standing to charge him with theft. He should have called the car's legal owner, their parents. Something he even admit to but didn't because he was angry. Not stay home. He threatened you and then when that didn't work, he stole from you. And you treated him like a thief who threatened you. You had to do what you had to do to protect yourself and establish your boundaries. How have things been since those 2 weeks? Do you feel threatened by him or your parents? The house felt tense for the first couple of days, but my parents seemed to be letting it go. I still don't have my keys back though, and I'm scared to ask them. My brother only speaks to me when he has to. Like I said, he's kind of scary, so I've been feeling on edge. I don't think he'll do anything though, but he definitely let me have it when he came back home with my mom that day. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for interrogating my wife after she hid her extra income? Me, 33, and my wife, 28, are married for 7 years. We have 2 kids, 4 female and 2 female. My wife is a stay-at-home mom after our first daughter, as there were lots of complications with her pregnancy. I make just enough money and my income goes to joint bank account and my wife makes the budget. Our house is my wife's grandma's that was built in 80s, so we're redoing it little by little and money is always tight, but we make it work. After our second daughter, my wife doesn't have complications anymore. Even the problems from first pregnancy went away. So we're doing better financially for the past year and has started a college fund for the kids. My wife started a vegetable and fruits farm in our yard and roof and is extremely good at it. She made a lot of money out of it. And to the issue now, a few days ago, I woke up early one morning and saw my wife putting the little one in the stroller and leaving. I tried to call her, but she couldn't hear me. After she left, I opened a tab to see her location, but she left her phone at home and there was no way of contacting her. I saw a message from the bank about a deposit in her account, which I didn't know she had. She came back around 7, which is when I usually wake up. But what struck me wrong was she came in through the back door and told me she was in the backyard. I started asking her why she was lying, and that I saw her leaving the house at 4 in the morning. And what is that extra money she deposited in her account? She denied it, and we had some back and forth, and I was getting late for work, so I left. When I came back, she acted like nothing happened, and I started asking her a question about where she went again. She got angry and told me I'm an a-hole for interrogating her, and she doesn't have to tell me about her whereabouts. I was shocked, as this is the first time I've ever heard her talk like this. Or raised her voice. Even the kids were shocked. I didn't say anything afterwards, and she's still angry and hasn't talked to me. Am I the a-hole for questioning her? Now for the comments. I'm going with not the a-hole because if my partner suddenly started acting like that, I'd be suspicious too, and I'd ask for answers. However, I want to suggest something you might not have thought of. As a woman, I was taught to have a separate bank account for my partner, which held emergency funds. This account should be kept secret and the amount should not be disclosed to the partner. This is because historically, a lot of women have stayed in bad, even dangerous, situation because they were financially dependent on their partner. Women have died in situations like this, so many women are taught to have secret emergency funds. If this is the case for your wife, please try to understand that this isn't about you. It doesn't mean she thinks you'd hurt her or leave her, and it doesn't mean she plans on leaving you. But there's a sense of safety and security that comes with knowing you have an escape route, if, God forbid, it's ever needed. Again, I have no idea if that's the case with your wife, but it might be, and in that case, I wouldn't ask any more questions. Just let her have her safety net, even if you don't think she needs one. I was taught the same. My husband was not happy about it until I told him how much I had saved. This account is at least 20 years old now, and we've bought cars, a house, and done renovations from my money. I don't care about the account. I'd be more worried about her taking your kid out at 4 a.m. and not telling you where she is taking the kid. That is a red flag to me. We always discuss our children and where we take them. This is what is really bugging me. Where the hell are you taking a toddler at 4 a.m. when the other parent doesn't know? If my kids wouldn't sleep, I would at least leave a note. Sometimes I would lie about going to a fancy coffee because I wouldn't get their father one, but that is my treat for being up and letting him nap. Honestly, not stay home. You were asking legit questions, and she's lying to you. It's not like it's an unfounded accusations. You saw her do it. Yeah, but it looks like she doesn't want to answer. My doubt is, should I have left it at that instead of pushing? No, you don't do what she did to your spouse. If it was nothing, she would have answered. You might want to hire a PI and find out. The fact that she hasn't talked to you in days is even more troubling. Am I the a-hole for kicking my husband out after he made a tantrum because my son refuses to call him dad? My husband, Josh 30, and I 32 female, have been married for over a year and dated for 5. I have a son, Sam, 12, from a previous relationship. My ex and I are nowhere near friends, but he's an amazing father towards our kid in every possible way. My kid adores his father and they look pretty much alike. Josh and I have been trying to get pregnant for 2 years without success because he has a low count. We've tried everything, but right now we can only hope that it happens naturally since we can't afford more treatments. I guess that out of sadness, Josh has been around Sam a bit more, trying to get him to do things together and spend some time. Sam loves him, but he sees my husband as an authority or uncle figure and not like a dad. Now, Josh has been trying to get Sam to call him dad or father since we began to try to have a baby because he doesn't want my son to feel left out. But Sam has refused every single time and continues to call him Josh, and it's okay. I had a talk with my husband about how Sam just prefers his name and that it's nothing personal, and after a few more times, Josh desisted. But right now, my husband has begun to try again, and Sam continues to refuse, saying that he already has a daddy, and that he doesn't like the pressure Josh puts on him. I've tried to talk to my husband again, but every time he just says that it's not fair my ex gets all the credit while he's been a father figure for my kid half of his life. I told him that we cannot force Sam to call him something he doesn't want to, and that not being called dad doesn't make him less than my ex. I thought that was it, but yesterday while we were having dinner, Sam told my husband, "Josh, look at this," and my husband totally snapped. He grounded my son and took a switch, saying that unless he starts to call him dad, he won't get it back. Sam was almost crying, and I told him that none of that was going to happen because we won't force him to do something he doesn't want to. My husband began to throw a tantrum about how it's not fair, how Sam's looks so much like my ex that it's always a reminder that he deserves more respect. I told him to get out of the house until his mind is clear and doesn't feel that fighting a kid is right. I get that Josh feels desperate and hurt, but I don't think that making Sam call him dad is the right move. However, I could be wrong. I know that my ex won't have any problem sharing the title, and I'm afraid I might be the a-hole for not taking Josh's feelings into consideration. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're standing up for your son and what he's comfortable with. Your husband has absolutely no right to force this, or gets mad when your son doesn't like it. Your husband is the a-hole, all the way. Protect your son. Husband needs therapy to deal with the struggles he's facing. Wanting to be a father doesn't give you the right to bully and force a child into calling you dad. This. AITA is full of stories about childless step-parents who try to force their step-kids to treat them like full parents, and ended up not only alienating the kids from themselves, but also from the bio parent they're married to. You need to have a serious talk with Josh and insist on therapy for him, with maybe a family component, so that he can hear Sam's feelings on the matter in a situation that will allow him to really hear them, not stay home. Yep. My dad forced us to refer to my stepmother as mom as soon as they married. I was 13 at the time, and my bio mother had always been our primary caregiver. Despite the fact that she made no effort to get to know or connect with us, they would both throw tantrums if we didn't celebrate her on Mother's Day, or in any way speak or act as though she was not our bio mom. His reasoning was that she didn't have her own children, so we owed that to her. 3 out of 4 of us are completely no contact as adults. You cannot force children to feel a certain way about you. It's just going to drive the kid further away. Not stay home. Put your son first. Your husband is out of line, and being upset with your son for looking like your ex is messed up. Real love doesn't divide or require titles. Your son is never going to feel comfortable with a stepfather acting like this, and you have a duty to protect him. You did exactly what you should have. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother and sister that I can't support them in what they are doing? The gist of this is, 3 years ago, my siblings and I found out our mom had cheated on our dad for several years of their marriage. We found out at the same time. Then we all took a DNA test, and only I was my dad's bio kid. It destroyed my parents' marriage, and Dad walked away from Mom. My siblings said that at the time he was their dad no matter what, and he said they were his kids no matter what, and never wanted them to feel otherwise. A year ago, they decided they wanted to meet their bio fathers. I noticed that at the time that it really stung my dad that they had any interest, though he never said anything or acted differently, not even to me when I tried to be a shoulder to lean on. Both of my siblings met their bio fathers, and both have built relationships up with these men. Now, my sister has decided she wants both dads to walk her down the aisle. It crushed our dad. He admitted to me afterward that he felt like he wasn't good enough, and he had a mixture of emotions because he never signed up to be one of the dads in the picture. He never wanted to be a co-dad, but now he is because his ex-wife had so many affairs. What makes it worse is these new relationships are getting more time, and he is noticing he sees them less because they are busy working on their bio relationship. My siblings have mentioned wanting to invite these bio fathers to family events and dinners. They want our dad to meet them, and they want a life where both men have the title for each. I told them I can't support this, that this is killing our dad, and I can't stand to see what this is doing to him. They said he's still their dad, but I told them they have essentially cast him aside in favor of these other fathers, and given he's the one who was there their whole lives, they can't expect everyone to be happy and be fine with us. My brother said he doesn't really love them if he doesn't want this for them, and they both called me nay for refusing to support them as their baby sister. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's one thing to meet a bio dad, but walking her down the aisle? Some guy had slept with a married woman with kids, and he gets equal billing as the guy who raised her? Your dad has to walk down the aisle with him like he's his gay husband, the dude his wife cheated with, and who kid now pics too. I understand wanting to meet his bio dad, but this is just mean. The kids are allowed to want to build a relationship with their bio dad. That is normal. It seems to me like it is the same as loving your mom and dad, except that they love their dad and dad, and they need to get to know these new dads. We don't know if those men knew that they were sleeping with a married woman, or even if they knew that they had kids until they were contacted. The first dad needs to express his hurt to the kids in a calm manner using I statements. I feel hurt that you spent less time with me, I am left feeling less loved, etc. And the siblings need to reassure their first and main proper dad that they still love him, and reinforce that bond. I don't think that the kids are a-holes though, not from what was said in the original post. Opie's dad isn't saying they can't have those relationships. He's saying it hurts him to be asked to spend time with the man his wife ducked behind his back. And that's fair. That can have 2 fully separate relationships they just won't. I think it's strange that the sister expects the dads to be buddies and walk her down the aisle. The dad clearly doesn't want anything to do with those other men. Not stay home. It's understandable that your siblings want to get to know their bio dad. Of course, this is going to hurt your dad, but you can't blame your siblings for that. But it is ridiculous that your siblings want your dad to have any kind of a relationship with their bio dads. These are the guys that his wife cheated on him with. No a-holes here except the cheating mom who caused all this drama. It's natural for a person, your siblings, To want to know about their biological roots and if they were able to connect with those people, that's their choice to make. It's natural for your dad to feel hurt at having to share the title of dad with a man who helped his wife cheat on him for kids he raised. I wouldn't blame him if he said no to walking your sister down the aisle alongside her by dad. Again, a man who helped his wife cheat on him. It's natural for you to be indignant on your dad's behalf and want no part of hurting him. And not being able to understand a point of view of your siblings to say they consider your dad their dad, but don't seem to take into consideration how much their actions are hurting him. And you are not obligated to take part in supporting hurting your dad by supporting their choices if you don't want to. Next story. Am I the a-hole for yelling at these two ladies at the park about my brother? So I'm 20. My parents had a surprise pregnancy when I was 16. My little brother is 3 now, and we're close. My dad died last year from COVID in December. It has been hard on all of us, especially my mom taking care of my little brother. I'm not in school right now, so in the mornings, me and him go to the park. Not a lot of people that early except these two ladies who were there with their kids. They were sitting by the swings, and I had my brother with me playing on the slides. But they kept looking at us. Even when I look at them, they'd keep staring. Then my brother wanted to go to play in the sandbox, which is by the swings. We walk past them, and they literally don't hide that they are looking at us. And then they say to each other, "Are kids still doing this?" And then I heard, "That poor baby." So they thought he was my son, which, yeah, makes sense. But openly talking crap? That got me mad. Normally, I don't do stuff like this, but I want to talk to them with my brother playing in the sand, and I ask them to say that again. Now they looked shocked. They try to act like they don't know what I'm talking about. So I ask the lady, "Are kids still doing what?" "That's my freaking brother." Then she was saying sorry she didn't know that, and thought I was his dad. And I told her no. Our dad died a few months ago, and I like to take him out because obviously my dad can't do that anymore. I was really mad. They said sorry for what they said, but all I told them that next time, don't freaking judge people's lives. It really got me, I don't know why, but didn't like the way they were being. I didn't hear them talking anymore. My mom saw me mad when we came home, so I told her everything. The reason she thinks I'm the a-hole was that I was still rude to these old ladies. It is not their fault that they didn't know. But still, to me it's like, so what if we weren't brothers and it was a dad with his kid? They still shouldn't be saying crap, and they were loud enough that I could hear it. But maybe I'm wrong? I don't know. That's why I'm asking here. Now for the comments. First, I am so sorry for your loss. I'm glad that your little brother have such a good brother to care for him. Also not the a-hole. Those nosy people need to mind their own business. I like to take him out because obviously my dad can't do that anymore. Well said, and well deserved. I hope you made them feel bad for being so quick to judge, and that they will think twice next time. And like, so what if he was his kid? Mistakes happen to teenagers all the time. They should have been impressed that he was being such a good father and actively taking part in his kid's life in that case. They just wanted to talk bad, because they were bored judgmental old ladies with nothing better to do with themselves. Kudos to Opie for being such a good big brother and role model to his little brother. Not stay home. Even if you were his dad, that still doesn't justify that disgusting comment. They were being judgmental pricks about something that has nothing to do with them. It doesn't matter that they didn't know or whatever. They assumed you were a single young father and decided to crap on you for that. That, and it off itself, is disgusting, and they deserve to be told off. You're a badass, my dude, and an awesome big brother. You're teaching that kid how to be a badass, upstanding guy too, by doing things like that. It's important that he understands that he doesn't just have to take abuse like that out of fear of being rude. Not stay home. I'm so very sorry for your loss. May your dad's memory bring you comfort. You are also a great big brother. Those women were completely out of line. You could have been watching a sibling, relative, neighbor, or parenting your own child. No matter which, you were doing it right. Those women were rude AF. They may keep their mouths shut next time. They probably won't be less judgy, but they may be polite about it, so you did a good thing for society. I hope so, because that pissed me off so much. Wouldn't even matter if he wasn't my brother but my kid. They still said it out loud, and for like what reason? Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she cannot leave our 7-month-old child in the bath unsupervised even for 10 seconds? My girlfriend, 30 female, and I, 30 male, have 2 young kids, 2 years and 7 months. My girlfriend is doing a pretty good job with the kids. She always makes sure they have everything they need. She plays with them a lot. She's a caring mom, and she loves her kids more than anything. No doubts about that. The thing is that we've been fighting for a couple of days now about a situation that happened this weekend. She was giving a bath to the youngest in the bathroom while I was in the living room with the oldest. Everything was good, until I turned my head and saw her out the bathroom looking for her cell phone while the youngest was still in the bath. Couldn't stop myself from screaming. "What are you doing? The kid is still in the bath. You go back to the bathroom and look for your cell phone later." From which she replied, "Oh my god, calm down. There's only 1.5 inches of water in the bath. Plus I only took 10 seconds to go and grab my cell phone." She went right back to the bathroom, cell phone in hands, where she finished bath time. Half an hour later, when she came back with a newly cleaned and suited baby in the living room, I told her that she can't do those kinds of things. I told her that I find this highly irresponsible to leave a 7-month-old baby unsupervised in the bath, even if it's only for 10 seconds. That her cell phone could have waited since there were no emergencies. I told her clearly I never want it to happen ever again. She told me I was overreacting, that she was only out of the bathroom for 10 seconds, that there was only 1.5 inches of water in the bath, and that there's nothing wrong about this. The discussion pretty much ended there. The kids were there, and it was clearly not the time and place to have this kind of discussion. Plus, the girlfriend was leaving with the kids for the day to go see her parents. Note, the visit was planned, and her leaving for the day was not related to the fight we just had. Next day, I asked her if she had time to think about what happened. She was super defensive. She told me that I was still overreacting. She deviated the subject and told me how, sometimes, I forgot to close the stair gate, and how that could be very dangerous for the kids. I stopped her there. I told her that forgetting to close the stair gate was also very dangerous, but that it was a mistake I don't want to make again, unlike the bath scene where she would 100% do it again. There's nothing wrong making a mistake if we can admit it and learn from it. Girlfriend told me I had nothing to say in what she does when she takes care of the kids, that I was being paranoid and overprotective. It's been a couple of days now. I'm still mad. She's still mad. I don't feel like going back to her saying, "I'm sorry," to settle this fight and move on. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. She is 100% wrong on this. Babies can drown in an inch of water very quickly. Have her read an article about it, especially the part that says you must stay within arm's reach of a child in a bathtub at all times. Yep, not only do hundreds of babies drown this way, thousands of children under 5 are treated for non-fatal incidents from this exact thing. Lack of adult supervision. That was more than enough water for the baby to have drowned. Not the a-hole. Definitely not the a-hole. I'm an ICU registered nurse in pediatrics. I've unfortunately cared for many children who ended up brain dead, and ended up donating their organs after being left alone in the bathtub. If your girlfriend can't or won't commit to not doing this again, then she should not be on bath duty for either of your children. And frankly, I personally would consider how safe I felt leaving them alone with her at all. Not the a-hole. I literally Googled, how shallow can water be for kids to drown? Answer across the board? Less than 2 inches of water. Googled, how fast can a child drown? Less than 30 seconds. She is absolutely 100% wrong, and she knows it. That's why she's being defensive. This is about the safety of your kids. It is the hill you should die on. I don't have any advice on how to talk to her again, but it's super important she gets it into her head. It never leaves your kids unattended in or around water. Period. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's female friend he might be your best friend but you're not his? Long story short, my husband has one of those female friends. I'll call her Sarah. Her and I get along fine, but every once in a while she'll make a comment or sit a little too close or touch him a lot, or competes with me on how close they are, or how well she knows him. She's one in a big group of about 11 friends. I've talked to my husband about her several times, but it's so many added up micro actions that it's hard to tell her off for one singular thing without looking crazy. Well, this past weekend, the group of friends got together for the first time since we're now all boosted. My husband and I eloped a few weeks ago, and this was the first time most were seeing us since. Sarah came right up and got in our face as the group was congratulating us, to tell my husband how disappointed she was in him for not telling her about our ceremony, not inviting her, not even sending her a photo. He told her nobody except our parents knew. Nobody was invited, and we don't have our professional photos back. This girl started sobbing. How could you do this to her? That she wanted him to be her man of honor when she gets married. She's single, and he didn't even invite her to his. And their friendship now needed some serious TLC to recover. This is in front of the whole group. I couldn't take it anymore and said, he might be your best friend, but you're not his. And this was between me and him. You were not even a consideration. There was so frosty ooze from the crowd, and she left the house. The crowd is split. They were all my husband's friends before I came into the picture, and some think it was uncalled for, and that I should have just let my husband handle it. I was mad in the moment, but now I don't know. Too far? Now for the top comments. Not stay home. She stepped over the line with her sobbing and demands publicly, and she needs TLC? She got a whole relationship in her head that may or may not exist, and your husband needs to draw that line in the sand. Yep, the TLC comments was, I think, what triggered me. The only tender thing I ask for my friend is chicken. Not stay home. I braced myself after I read one of those female friends. But now? Holy hell. Literally en route to see my best friend and his wife. No freaking way did I react that way when they eloped. Now I am as close to her as I am to him. Sounds like she pictured your husband as her fallback guy at least. Sobbing? That is deranged. Not stay home. But I'm curious as to why your husband hasn't distanced himself from someone who doesn't respect your relationship. They don't do things one-on-one anymore, but she's still within the main friend group, so hard not to have her around. He still needs to set boundaries. Her behavior was way out of line. She's honestly acting like your husband is either a fallback person for her or the one who got away. Crap needs to be shut down immediately, and you two need to be a united front about it. Not stay home. She was trying to make your marriage about her and her feelings. Not stay home, and I wish you could see how hard my eyes rolled reading this post. Talk about no boundaries. She's so transparently into your husband it's almost painful. Well, you definitely could have let him handle her, you weren't out of line in the least. This girl needs to know where she stands, and that's well behind you. Nicely done. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister's husband out of my house because of what he did? I, female 34, lost my husband 8 weeks ago. He had cancer and it got treated, then it came back. It was and still is so devastating. I'm trying to stay collected and welcoming to all the supportive family members who come to offer help, despite my constant change in mood due to grief. My sister is the most supportive one, although her husband would act inappropriately sometimes, especially after he told me after the funeral that now I'm burden-free and can live my life, given I was my husband's sole carer. I try to let go of those comments thinking he didn't know better. He, my sister, and my family came to visit last week. They cooked dinner for me and kept me company for a bit. After dinner, my brother-in-law asked for a minute with me inside the kitchen. He started telling about a co-worker of his who's single, then went on to list everything good about him. I was confused as to why he was telling me all that. He then reached out for his pant pocket and pulled a piece of paper with his co-worker's phone number on it, telling me to give him a call sometime. I was floored. I couldn't really tell if he was joking or what, but he looked serious and kept insisting I take the number. I lost it. I just started yelling at him that my husband just died, and he was out of his mind to try to hook me up with a co-worker of his. I tried to explain that it wasn't like that, and that he was just offering me something helpful, but I didn't know what he meant. I called him disrespectful, then yelled at him to get out of my house. My sister and the others ran into the kitchen not knowing what was going on. I told them, then pressured him to leave my house, but my sister asked that I calm down, but I couldn't. He left, then my sister left quietly. After I'd calmed down, I sat with my family, and they said I was right in that what he did was not okay, but I needed to keep in mind that he and my sister helped so much by cooking for me, comforting me and doing so much for me in these difficult times, so I shouldn't have reacted like that, and could have been a little more considerate and graceful. They said kicking him out was too much, and I should call him later and talk things out so I won't ruin my relationship with him and possibly my sister. It's been days and haven't called, and my sister hasn't visited or called, which means she's upset with me. And now I'm beginning to think they're most likely hurt because I acted ungrateful after everything they've done for me. Not stay home. Actions are not balancing each other. It doesn't work like that. It's not as if preparing meals for someone allows you to be inappropriate with them afterwards. Exaggerating here, I prepared a meal for you, and I think you are stupid by the way. Hey, don't insult me. Well, I cooked for you, remember? Seen elsewhere on AITA today and somewhat applies. A favor held for ransom is no favor at all. Not stay home. He was way out of line and needed to be told to back off. How cold and rude. You are grieving for your husband, and you may never want to date again. It's only been 8 weeks. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm sending you my sincerest condolences. You don't owe anyone an apology. What you did was outright callous. Not stay home. He was clueless and cold and totally lacked empathy. Grief makes us extremely sensible, so of course his rudeness was extra painful. This is where, if you want, there is a room to mend a relationship. If you want. You can call your sister and say that you appreciate everything they have done to support you since your husband's death, but that your brother-in-law's offer was too soon and misguided, and that in grief your reaction was amplified. If he is willing to apologize for his lack of tact, you can apologize for the force of your reaction. You did not overreact. I think he should be the one to make the first gesture towards reconciliation, but he has proven he lacks completely in compassion and sense. So if you feel like it, this could be a way to move past this. Not stay home. I can't tell if your brother-in-law is an actual jerk, or just astoundingly lacking in empathy and social judgment. But either way, his actions were wildly insensitive and inappropriate, and your actions completely understandable. Agreed. It'd be one thing if the coworker runs a support group for widowers, but brother-in-law didn't even specify that, just said he could help. I would never think to shove a phone number into the hands of a recent widow without a really good explanation, and he gave none. My mom is a widower, and it took her 4 years to even contemplate dating again. She has a lot of friends who fulfill her life, so dating isn't top priority for her right now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for buying 2 of the same small car instead of a more practical car? My boyfriend is frustrated I didn't consider his needs. For a few years, I've had a newer Miata as my only car. I found it practical for myself. I've even traveled across country in it twice. My boyfriend doesn't find it as practical. He is 6'2" and finds it small. Plus, he doesn't like to pack light when traveling and is frustrated at only being able to bring 1 suitcase. Anyway, I wanted a car to take to track days, that I could mod more than my daily driver. I mentioned to my boyfriend that I was shopping around for another car. I wanted something to track, but I also was gonna keep it street legal so he could have a second car. He doesn't have a car of his own, so sometimes things are logistically difficult. I was looking at a few options for cars on Craigslist and then spotted a great deal on a 1997 Miata. It needed some work, but that's my hobby anyway. I jumped on it because that kind of deal doesn't stick around for long, and that same afternoon I bought the car. I got to work on it over the weekend and got it repaired well enough to be drivable. And I'm planning to add a roll cage, suspension upgrades, new sway bars, and new tires. But on Sunday when my boyfriend came back from a weekend trip he was taking, he was really upset to see the car. He was incredulous and bought a second of the same car, this one even smaller. He said he was expecting something full-sized which could fit more than 2 people. He has visitation every month with his kids he had with his ex, and he either has to take them on the bus or during COVID have his ex drive them to him and pick them up. So he was frustrated I didn't get a 5-seater car that could fit the kids along with us. I said I never knew he expected anything but me picking a track day car, picked out primarily to race, and letting him drive whatever it was if he needed to occasionally. But it seemed like he saw me getting the second car as primarily a car for him or our household. He said he wasn't trying to act entitled, but he did expect me to at least be considerate of his situation, and not just be like, me, and go buy a second car that is my favorite car but doesn't consider him at all. Am I the a-hole for buying a second Miata? Now for the comments. So, let me get this straight. You bought your car with your money, and your boyfriend who didn't pay for anything and doesn't have a car but likes the convenience of having one and being driven places by you is mad because you didn't spend your money on a car that he wants so that he can use it to drive around his kids? Alexa, play No Scrubs. Not stay home. Why doesn't he buy a car of his own to cart his kids around in? You needed another car for track day, not another daily rider. Sounds like he should ask you to help him find a fixer-upper and help him fix it up. His crappy life choices are not your responsibility. You're being kind enough to let him use your car. Does he live with you? Not stay home. He doesn't have to like your car. Not stay home. 1, it's your money. 2, it's your car. 3, it fits your needs. 4, he is a boyfriend, not a husband. 5, if he wants a car to fit him plus kids, he can buy one with his own money. Pretty much this. I don't understand people saying everyone sucks here because kids are involved. They have been dating for 2 years but only living together for 3 months. I would never just buy a whole freaking car just for a boyfriend. He wants a family-friendly vehicle or even a vehicle in general. He can buy his own. She's just letting him borrow it if he wants to use it, but she doesn't owe him anything, kids or not. Not stay home. It's your money and your car. If you wanted a car that fit him, he could buy one. Those aren't your kids. You're not responsible for their transportation. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my wife for giving my daughter a picture of my estranged mom for a family tree project? I was really close to my mom growing up, but she cut me off 12 years ago. She was kind of always a cold and awkward person, but she texted me that she didn't want to see me again. She hates my wife more than she loves me, and if she never has to see my wife again, it's worth not seeing me. It hurts like heck, and I had to go to grief counseling. One thing my mom had said was she mourned me like I died, and that I should let her go. I did the same, and I try not to think about her. But sometimes I think about the fact I have a whole family out there and just can't see them. It is a mind screw. Recently, my daughter had a school tree project. She knows the very basics, that my mom is alive, but we don't talk. I figured we'd leave both of my parents off it. Dad walked out. Well, last night my daughter showed it to me, and it had my mom on it. Just seeing her was hard for me, and it was clearly a new picture. I kept it together in front of my daughter, but I asked my wife, and she said she got it off Instagram because she didn't want half of the poster to be empty. I lost it, and said she just hurt me so bad for a freaking poster, and how could she do that? She said I was overreacting, and that my mom still gave birth to me, so she should be there. I called her selfish and heartless, and slept in another room last night. She thinks I overreacted, but I think she crossed a huge boundary. Info. Why does your mother hate your wife more than she loves you? There's a whole backstory here that's missing. And why can't he see any of the rest of his family? They took her side. Sisters cut me off while aunt financially blackmails her kids into not seeing me. Answer the question. There may not be a real reason. My dad's mom hated my mother simply for existing. My grandpa's mom hated my grandma because she basically hated everyone. And a woman across the street brags about how she doesn't see 2 of her sons because she never liked their wives. Some women are just kind of horrible to the insignificant others. There doesn't have to be a reason. No a-holes here. The real a-hole is the teacher who assigned a project like this. Complete disregard for children's situations such as broken homes, foster care, etc. I suspect to have them present and explain to the class. This project should honestly not exist. It is literally no teacher's business what your home looks like. I can understand your wife wanting your daughter to feel like she does have a family and wanting her to know what her grandmother looks like. I can also understand you wanting your wife to respect the boundaries. She should have spoken to you first about it, and you should have acknowledged that at some point your kid is going to want to know more, and hiding family members from her isn't helpful. Edited to add because people are pressed. My dad taught elementary school for several years. Literally decades later, he is still haunted by some of the familial situations that some of those kids were in. While it sounds great to teach students that family models look different, it should never be done at the expense of a child. You are opening up a can of worms and a barrage of questions that other students now feel entitled to asking when you have someone explain that family member isn't in their life. What if that parent was an abuser to the child? What if the child's home life was bad enough to where they were removed? What does your child need to know what happened to Opie's kid's grandma? As someone who is in the exact same family situation, my mother-in-law's cut off because she didn't want a relationship with my husband if it included me, I would say not stay home. However, as I'm sure you know, it's almost impossible to understand the dynamics of a situation like this unless you've been through it, so you're going to get a lot of YTAs on this post. Since your wife was there for all of this struggle, I'm really surprised that she chose to include your mother's photo. It took my husband and I years of individual and couples counseling to come to peace with our situation. You and your wife might consider a couple of maintenance marriage counseling sessions to work through this. Also, 100% agree with the previous poster that projects like this are awful. So many kids don't have the picture-perfect family, and so many include trauma that this is not worth it. There are better ways to teach kids what it means to be a second cousin once removed. Yes, I always hated these projects in school, since I didn't know my dad, and my mom knew next to nothing about him, so they would always be completely empty in one half. A teacher actually argued with me one time that I had a dad after I told her I didn't. These projects just make anyone without a picture-perfect family feel super awkward and awful. And I love the family I do have, and wouldn't change my upbringing for anything, but those projects still suck.